Not sure who else is on the line. Welcome, everyone. We did have a work session ONX1. Nick, do we have any work sessions? 2 weeks?
If I can just, so who do we have? Kathy, Doug, Kevin, Peter?
Yes.
Is that it?
Joe will be on shortly.
Okay.
Nathan will not be. He had a conflict, a last minute conflict.
Yeah. Was Leif coming?
Yeah, they all said they were coming.
Okay.
Leif just joined.
Leif
All right.
just joined. Okay, great. So we've got enough to, can I have an approval for the minutes?
I'll move, Peter.
Thank you, Kathy.
May I interject one on that? I missed the second on the last motion. I just didn't have a person have. The motion was made by Peter. I didn't want to guess on the second, but if anyone wants to.
I thought I was late, but it was hard because they didn't identify themselves.
Peter,
Okay,
that's correct.
That was correct?
Thank
Yes.
you. We'll put Leif. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Was that in your corrections, Nick?
Yes, but you may not have saw him. I sent him out late.
Thank you.
All right. Who could second this?
I'll second.
Second, Doug. Thank you. All in favor?
Hi, Kevin.
Doug, aye.
Joe, aye.
Peter, aye.
Kathy, aye.
Thank you. Okay, first on, we have National Grid. Stephanie, do you want to just give us a quick overview of where we stand with this?
Absolutely. And before we get into the project discussion, I just want to remind everybody that the meeting is recorded, and that is going to be available on the town website within a week.
Thank you.
Okay. So National Grid submitted a full set of plans to respond to the last set of comments that were issued. There were some questions about the disturbance, and there was a request to make a formal driveway connection all the way down to Collimer Road and connect with a granite curb. They provided all of those. When we were reviewing the plans, we noticed that there were a few inconsistencies as far as the limited disturbance that you see here. I think that it's well marked, but it needs to be, a label needs to be added that just showing that it's going to be reseeded with an appropriate lawn cover. And then there were some fence details that were provided, but they were inconsistent. One showed 7 feet, one showed 6 feet, and it should all just be consistent with the existing fence line that they plan to tie into. And then I've been in touch with National Grid to communicate that, and it looks like Ben Weissel is here. Ben, do you have any further comments to add?
No, we'd be happy to make those changes. If the board sees fit to approve tonight and make a condition of approval that we comply with that request, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Is that, I haven't read all through the resolution. Is that in the resolution?
Yeah, I've
Yes.
communicated those changes to Jamie.
Okay.
And there was also a comment about lowering the sign height from 6 feet to a maximum of 5, which is a requirement in an R1 district.
Great. Okay. Any questions from the board?
Well, they're going to have to fix the sign. I was by there today, and it was pretty well bent over and trashed anyway. So, and do we want to have a gate out front by 298
Collimer Road.
Collimer? Should there be a gate so people can't drive back in there, or is that inconvenience for them, or I don't know?
We didn't discuss it. It's very inconspicuous. I know that.
Well, I'm just thinking it's, somebody driving back there, and it just attracts people to, for police matters or people.
Would the applicant like to respond to a possibility of putting a gate in?
Yeah, this is Steve Haller here from our environmental department. Before I forget, Stephanie, I would like to speak up on the reseeding. Most of the LOD, if not all of the LOD, is either Phragmites, wetland mix type situation, or stone. So I don't know if there's going to be any reseeding per se. Outside of that, on the gate, because of the way the entrance to the facility is, it may be possible to put a gate farther down, but I believe if we put one towards the end, it may cause our trucks to have to stop in the middle of that intersection on Northern Boulevard, or Calmer Road, as it were, which may cause some other issues. If you'd like, we can look into that further, but I think that would, right at the road, would be very difficult for operations.
It might
I agree with
be,
that.
to Steve's point.
Back a little bit. Just back a little bit farther.
Yeah, I don't mind back a little bit on the road, off the road.
Yeah. I think it'd be a good idea because there's nothing that you want anybody back there that shouldn't be. So is the applicant amenable to that condition?
Let me just make sure, is Karam on the phone? Steve, have we installed gates like this in the past? I mean, I don't see it being that big of a deal.
No, I don't know on our gas facilities. I know electrically we have man gate or large like cattle gate type enclosures on a lot of our ways. I would ask that we're able to run it past our operations folks to make sure there's no reason to not do that. But I personally at this point don't see a major issue with it.
Okay. Why don't we put that in? How far back would be appropriate?
That's part of what I'd like to run past our operations folks to make sure their standard equipment they would get back in there wouldn't be an issue if somebody pulls up with a truck of a certain size.
Yeah.
Do you want to put a range on there right now that would be acceptable so no one has to return and it can just be administrative?
Sure. Can we say at least one truck length?
That's fine with me.
I'm good with that.
How about, something like 50 to 70 feet from the curb edge?
Yeah, I would push it back. If it's not visible, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first tree's looking good on the left.
Yeah. Well, what instead of we'll say a minimum of 50 and we'll sort of leave it at that. I mean,
That sounds fine.
okay. Let me, I'll add that. Does anybody else, that was a good point, Joe. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the plan as presented with the following conditions. The plan shall be modified as follows. Correct fence details to be of uniform height and match existing fence height. Revised sign height to 5 feet maximum. Dimension letter height. Outline area of disturbance and identify area to be reseeded.
Was there an issue that, I'm sorry, that it wouldn't be reseeded? Did I hear that? Are we backing down on that? Or I didn't hear the discussion about the reseeding. I thought I heard the applicant say that wasn't feasible.
Yes, Steve, can you just restate
Sure,
that?
I can elaborate on that. We can reseed with an appropriate wetland mix, but I know it was specifically stated grass mix, which there's not really an area that would be reseeded with a mix like that. So I just didn't want that to get in the record for.
Reseeded where appropriate, would that be
Yeah, that would be
acceptable?
Absolutely. Yep, that would be great. Thank you.
And then the fourth item would be a gate would be installed minimum of 50 feet from the entrance that would be approvable by the planning and zoning staff administratively. Do we have any specs on gates, or is that something that we'll do as the applicant submits?
So this is a new request, so we don't have any specs, but I'm sure we could work it out with, as you mentioned, with the planning staff without any issue.
Okay. The gate specifications will be worked with the planning staff administratively, and be a minimum of 50 feet, and be appropriate size and structure for the area. Upon these changes being made and submitted to the Office of Planning and Development, The chairperson is authorized to sign the plan and that plan together with other submitted documents, site plan documents that have been signed by the planning board chairperson and the applicant, and requires that all of the work shown be completed by the applicant in order for the certificate of occupancy or compliance be issued. Any proposed changes, additions, deletions to the scope of work and materials from the site and documents are not approved and are subject to further site of plan review pursuant to the town DeWitt code, section 192-122. That's the motion. May I have somebody second it?
I'll
Okay.
second Peters.
Yeah, Peter Lloyd.
Kathy,
Kathy.
all in favor?
Aye.
Doug, aye.
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 Yeah, Joe.
Kevin, aye.
All, okay, Kevin, all approved unanimously. Thank you. And I think that's that.
Thank you
The
very much.
gate, pardon?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item is Project Orange. We've talked about this a lot, and recommendation to the ZBA for site and building signage. So, Stephanie, do you want to just bring us up to date?
Yeah, who's here for the applicant? Anyone?
Yeah, Jamie, this is Byron DeLuke with Monsanto Construction.
Hi, Byron.
Hi, Byron.
Hi, everyone.
So, go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that just to go through what our recommendation is before we get with the formal resolution. And Stephanie can chime in. We know that there's a recommendation, or there's a request for a variance on the number of monument signs. Just one is allowed. There's two requested. So that's would be, does that sound right, Byron? Chime in. Yeah.
Yes, I'll just leave myself off mute.
Okay. The other one is that as to each of the monument signs, you want a variance on the square footage of the face of the signs. So on one of them, you need additional 5 square feet, and the other one an additional 15. Is that correct?
Both of the monument signs in terms of the size are the same. So you can see on they're both approximately 6 by 6.
Okay.
Right? No, 6 by 6. So total of what is that? 36, 36.
So
72.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Byron, just to not confuse further. The signage code for the district relates to the square footage of the signage face. So even though there is a maximum of 6 feet height from the ground plane, you are within that. But it would be calculated as the 5 feet by 6. So
it's a max of 60 feet between the two signs. Right.
So 5 by 6 is 30 square feet a piece, and they would be allowed 20.
So it's a 10-foot variance?
10-foot variance per sign.
Okay. We'll fix that. The next one is what we refer to as the campus signage. And everything is in compliance except the height. So we're proposing up to 7 feet in height. And just 4 is what's allowed by code.
And that is implied, Byron. The total height allowed is 4 feet, and since these panels are shown as being 48 inches, we're assuming that the total height would be something like 3 foot ground clearance between the bottom of the sign panel, just to allow for snow accumulation. I don't know if that you want to go much higher than that, but we're thinking that 7 feet is reasonable. Okay.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Directional signage, same kind of issue. Everything looks good. It's in conformance with our code except for the height. And again, we're looking at a maximum of 7 feet on that.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the building mounted signs, this is the biggie, right?
Yeah,
So-
before you move on to that, I just wanted to be sure that we might advise the ZBA relative to the fact, as I recall, this has to do with the size of the trucks and snow, et cetera, so they'd be more visible. Is that accurate?
That's exactly right, Peter. Basically, when you're talking about the campus and/or wayfind directional signs, the intent there is to ensure that the drivers in the vans, of course, predominantly, but also, yes, the trucks can actually see them when they're driving by.
So for visibility's sakes, we may want to give them that. I'll cover that in the resolution.
Mhm.
Are they illuminated?
They're not illuminated.
Should
Well,
they be?
the site in general is well lit.
Mhm.
As far as the site signage, from the time that you cross into the entry drive, I mean, we can look at the photometric plan as well if there's a question about that.
Okay, we'll let that go.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back to the building now. Jamie, is that where you were going?
Yep, I think it's the last one, and the square footage is significantly over, well, first of all, there's two signs. The total square footage is supposed to be 120, and the total square footage that they're proposing is 260.
It's 380.
Oh, don't get, I
Yes.
got the math messed up
Okay.
again.
I'm gonna walk through this really quick.
Yeah.
The Amazon Hub logo is shown at 110 square feet.
Yep.
The Amazon logo is shown at 270. So combined, I've got that as 380.
Yep.
Okay.
So the variance itself would be 260.
Yes, so it is written properly. It's just said wrong by me. Okay.
And the reason for that is that there's two separate functions, one for customers and the other
Right.
the identification. All right. Any other questions or definitions? Are we ready to read the resolution? Okay. The planning board makes the following recommendation to the ZBA on variance for the Project Orange site, keeping in mind that the overarching conditions regarding the premise that this project is in a newly created, quote, transportation overlay district of the town, end quote. This overlay district is located in the high-tech zoning district of the town. As such, the board has worked with the applicant in the spirit of the transportation overlay district, spelling there, to assure that the applicant adheres to high-tech standards of design and layout. However, recognize that this large transportation use is unique. Additionally, while the zoning in high-tech, this use has characteristics of industrial use with respect to signs. The industrial signage code is significantly less restrictive than the high-tech zone. That factor is taken into consideration recommending this variance. And in addition, the visibility to trucks trafficking is another reason for our recommendation. One, this board recommends that ZBA grant a variance of a number of monument signs allowed. Only one monument sign is allowed, and the applicant has requested two. The nature of use of flow of traffic, particularly where each of these signs leads to and identifies a different part of the hub, consumer versus commercial truck delivery. The two monument sign allows for appropriate flow of traffic. Two, the board recommended that as each monument sign, a variance of square footage face of the signs be varied to allow for additional 5 signage on one
10.
sign.
10.
10.
Yep. 10 square feet. Yep.
An additional 15 square feet.
It's 10 still. Yeah, I was corrected on that. So it's 10.
Yeah, okay. On the second sign, this will allow for visibility and safety of vehicular traffic. 3, section 196-106C-B of the code applies to what the board has referred to as, quote, campus signage. The campus signs provided by the applicant show appropriate size, uniformity, and square footage per code. However, variance is required for height, because this is not intended as a pedestrian centric site. The flow of vehicles is paramount and the additional height for vehicle viewing is warranted. This board recommends a variance to allow for a maximum height of 7 feet on the campus signs. 4, directional signage is found to be appropriate in the accordance with Code 192-106 C5, except for respect for the height for the same reason set forth above. This board recommends a variance to allow for a maximum height of 7 feet on the directional signs. There are 2 building monument mounted signs on the north elevation where only one is allowed by code. See section 196-106 C2. For reasons set forth above, the 2 signs are warranted and a variance should be granted for additional sign. The square footage of 110 square feet for hub sign and the second sign of 270 square feet is appropriate and fits the building and use. Where 120 feet of total signage is allowed, 260 would be acceptable, resulting in 120 square foot.
Yeah, that last 120 is wrong. Just 260 would be acceptable.
Acceptable.
Yep.
Okay, that's the resolution. Can I have a second?
Leif seconded.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. All approve?
Doug, aye.
Kathy, aye.
Joe, I got Joe, Kathy, Doug, Peter, Leif,
Kevin.
Kevin. Unanimous. Thank you.
Hey, Byron, question for you.
Yeah.
Are the building signs they're presented, are these basically the same size signs that would be on other facilities? I'm just trying to gauge.
These are, it depends on the facility. These are the same types of signs that you'll have on a delivery station, Doug, but the signs are going to be bigger on, say, a fulfillment center, sortation center. They'll be smaller, for example, on the prime hubs that are rolling out around the country. So it really does depend on
Okay.
predominantly the size of the facility, even though, they're consistent across type.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hey, Byron.
Yes.
Yeah, to throw out too, I think you probably would want to indicate the distance from the road for this as well within the application
Okay.
for the ZBA.
That's a good idea.
Can do that. And Andy, I'll follow up with you and Nick tomorrow relative to that application. I know it needs to get in immediately, so I'll work on that and I'll follow up immediately with you all.
Okay.
And Peter and everyone else on the board, as I always say, you mentioned it at the beginning, Peter, we've seen this a lot, the project a lot. So I appreciate the continued work and help of the board to get through the project, and look forward to seeing you all again, I'm sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you
Well
all.
done.
Thank you.
Okay, Lemoyne College.
Yeah, I just wanted to say as an aside board, these are very significant variances, and if we're going to have more in our transportation node overlay, we might want to think about code revisions.
I agree.
It's very significant, and boy, the ZBA does not like it when they see a lot of variances. And so I think, Andy, if you can let the ZBA know that we recognize that, and
Yep.
that it's our first time we've been in this zone, and we're like, hey, this sign code does not work for this kind of a use. So.
Never meant for this scale of project.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It was meant for high tech, and we just didn't anticipate it, and I'm glad we're out here doing this. So
I thought it's covered in the resolution. If you need more in terms of a narrative, we can provide that, Andy.
Yeah, I think typically too that, the buildings that are done in high tech are usually within 50 feet of a street frontage. And that's kind of why I wanted to put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's more staff, employee. Okay, let's move to Lemoyne College. Concept site plan review, proposed driveway and pedestrian access modifications in a residential 2.
Hi, everybody. It's Fouad Dietz from Lemoyne College. I was hoping we would start out with the quad project because these all sort of dovetail with each other as part of our ongoing effort to improve the campus and improve circulation, pickup, drop off, and pedestrian access. So we'll be talking about the quad project as the next agenda item.
No, you can do that first. You can do that. We're flexible.
Well, if you'd prefer to switch, I think it would put this in more context.
Let's do it.
Not that it matters,
No,
but I think it would be helpful because, you know, we've been on this journey together for a few years now. So
we're very amenable to switching.
thank you. That would really be helpful just in terms of mental organization. Sorry, we're not in person, but hopefully we will be soon so we can actually see each other and be able to point and talk about all these complicated things that are going on. So a year and a half ago, a couple of years ago, we presented you with our quad update. We've executed phase 1. We came to you for review for phase 2, which was the removal of the semicircle in front of Gruen Hall to be replaced with a square that's paved and piers and site walls, et cetera, and all of that. And at the time, it was a concept, and we were going to review with you how we would treat the entrance to Salt Springs, and also what we would do about a sign that would announce the campus from Salt Springs Road, which is actually in the city of Syracuse, but it's part of the overall project. So this is the follow-up to that. Obviously, the project did not end up moving forward last year because of COVID, et cetera, and the financial situation that the college found itself in, and having to take a more defensive approach financially. But we're coming again to share with you our development of that. We hope that we can do this summer. I don't know that we will, but nonetheless, we've done the design with EDR, and we're here to share with you where we're at with it. So we've had some feedback from within the college and from our outward-facing programs in the community. And since we've lived now for a year with the sort of the circle closed, it really gave us a preview of what some of the issues are that the community is finding in accessing our campus. And it also allowed us to have the ability to see what was going on and how people were adjusting to the campus access. So I don't know who has their screen up. It's Stephanie. If you can sort of point to the back of Gruen and between Gruen and Riley with your pointer right there, that spot became a hot point for pickup and drop off of students for classes in the evening and also for faculty during the day. So we did notice that that was going on. We also heard from that's where the pointer is. So that became a node of an area that we needed to do something to address. The other comment that came back to us is that people really felt cut off from the Salt Springs side of the campus. We have the hill there, and so, it does pose some issues, but the feedback that we got is that people really would prefer to have a pickup and drop off location there. And even if cars were not going to drive up to campus, people felt that it was important to have the ceremonial effect of driving partway up and dropping off and turning around and leaving. And so you'll see in the drawings that where we're looking actually right now, there's a new masonry half-height wall with a sign that says Lemoyne College and letters that would be lit at night with some landscaping around it. There's a circle drop-off between the library and the chapel at Salt Springs Road. You will also see that in the next agenda item that we've also installed a circle behind Gruen Hall, between Gruen Hall and Riley, is another pickup and drop-off location. And those are basically all coming out of all this feedback that we've received from everybody. I also just want to, this is just a footnote, but I just received comments before the meeting. I don't know when they went out. They were never directed to me, And I got some scathing comments from the fire marshal about these projects. And for a moment, I got really upset. And I thought, my God, I walked the site. We've made this huge investment and made all these walks able to carry a fire truck. We redid all of our hydrants to be accessible to the new torque system. We spent about $10,000 to update them to be the fire department spec. And you know, he's basically saying we've cut off access, we've limited it, and this is not helpful. And then I realized we have a new fire marshal. So I need to reach out to the new fire marshal and share these drawings and these plans with him and explain that this is all, we've actually improved the access for fire trucks with the new project, that any emergency response vehicle will actually be able to drive right on campus and not even come in contact with any traffic or parked vehicles. And we've put in tremendous money and infrastructure so that our new sidewalks are the width of and can carry a fire truck. So I will be heading that off, and I don't know whether his comments were shared with the board or not.
I received them at about 5 o'clock
And well, I got them too, and then all of a sudden I sort of felt like I was going into a sweat, and I thought, wait a minute, this is not the same fire marshal. So I did want to preface that. And we can certainly share the route with the board, but I will also reach out again and go over all the planning that was done for fire access, et cetera. So I think what I'll do, I've given an introduction. If anybody has sort of large scale questions, I'm happy to take them. And Steve Britzka is with us from EDR, and he can guide us through the design. Does anybody have any questions for me over anything I've said so far?
Not yet. I appreciate you addressing the fire question, and we look forward to your resolving that. I guess Steve, he should present the design, and then we can comment after he reviews this.
Sure.
Let's see. Can we go to C101? Is it Nick or Stephanie that has control?
I've got control, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. Good to see everyone.
Steve.
Almost there. Here we go.
There we go. So as Fuad mentioned, the focus is really on updating for pedestrian circulation and eliminating vehicular circulation. As you'll recall, phase 1 eliminated the parking lot to the left side on this drawing, which was a tremendous step for Lemoyne to take. People were used to parking at their front door, and they eliminated that. And phase 2 expands on that by taking out vehicles from the center of campus. They've lived that way for a while now, like Fuad mentioned, and the new design will create a more pedestrian-friendly quad space outside of Gruen that will really serve multiple purposes. We'll have benches around it, so it can have just a couple of people. It can have large gatherings. It can expand in both directions across the lawn. There's a connection over to the chapel. It really just opens up this space for pedestrian use. We're bringing the scale of it down with pavers that are drawing from details off of Gruen Hall. As Fuad mentioned, we have piers surrounding the space as well. They will be lit to make this a hub in the central of campus and make sure that it's safe as people are walking from one side of campus to another. We've strengthened the connection between Gruen and the Panaschi Family Chapel Tower on the south side there, and organized all of the pedestrian circulation in that space. So by eliminating vehicular conflicts here, the entire experience is really focused on the pedestrian. The current drive that comes up into this space is approximately 30 feet wide, and we're narrowing that to 23 feet. It's no longer a drive. It has an 8-foot sidewalk on the north side in this drawing, and then a 15-foot wide paved space that will function as a sidewalk or a walking path the majority of the time, but it also allows for fire truck access. And
Can you point to what we're looking at?
sure. Let's see. Am I able to do that, Stephanie?
Yeah, absolutely. Just request permission.
Sorry about that, Douglas. I should have done that to begin with.
No problem. Thanks.
There we go. Okay. So just to back up a little, so Gruen Hall here at the top, making that connection across the quad to the Panache Family Chapel Tower here on the south side of the space. This whole area, as it stands now, it's focused on drive space. Granted, vehicles aren't allowed there now, but we've aimed to organize all of that around the pedestrian. So the current drive is in the same location as we're proposing here, but it's much wider. So we're narrowing that, removing some of the impervious. The sidewalk is here along the north side, and then we'll have a paved area on the as the drive space. The dark line that goes through here is the fire truck access. So a vehicle will be able to enter off of Salt Springs Road. We'll get to that in the next drawing, and come up through the quad space here, turn left, and then pass by the Science Center and exit between Science and Nelligan Hall off campus to the north. So we're accommodating that by keeping the quad open. All of the curbing is flush in this area. There will be a medallion in the center with the Lemoyne seal on it, just to signify that that space and really identify it as the center of campus. Otherwise, the space is really continuing what we began with phase one, with the strong axial connection between one side of the quad to the other. And we're bringing it, as far as you see here, up to Riley and the Family Chapel, where it does continue, although the lines are a little off axis going in that direction. We will have benches outside of Gruen built in. Again, we're matching materials, looking at the granite plinth that's outside the front door to Gruen, and building on that for that entire pedestrian space. We have a small garden area to the left of Gruen. We have a new handicap ramp. There's a connection between the sidewalk and the overlook. If you've been to campus, you know that there's a stunning view off to the north, and we want to make sure that we can get people there. So we will have a new handicap ramp leading up to that space with a small garden area and a small statue. Let's see if we can go to the next page. There we go. So Salt Springs Road is along the bottom here, and we have the library off to the left. Again, the focus is on pedestrian access. We are narrowing the road. It's 30 feet currently. We're taking that down to 24 feet. We're maintaining the sidewalk on the left side of the drive and adding a sidewalk on the other side. So currently there is only one sidewalk along this drive. Vehicles will come in and have the mid-level drop-off space, as Fuad mentioned, with the roundabout. It'll be a counterclockwise circulation where people can drop off and walk up the pathway toward Gruen, or they can access the library to the other side of the drop-off. We'll split that area with a planted island. And again, the curbing around here is all flush to accommodate that emergency access vehicles. We would have removable bollards along that space to eliminate or prevent the everyday drop off from going further up toward Gruen Hall. You can see the line here between Town of DeWitt and City of Syracuse. The sign that Fuad mentioned is a new masonry sign. We'll be demolishing the current round sign in the planting area and adding a new curved sign that we're working with the City of Syracuse on. It will have Lemoyne College and the college seal as well. It will be illuminated and we'll have ground level planting around it as a way to identify arrival at the campus. Oh, sorry.
But wait a minute, Steve. If we can go back a second.
Sorry. Let me pan out here.
Across the street on in front of St. Mary's and Harrison, in that parking lot, we've designated all the parking spaces that are facing Salt Springs there as visitor parking. I know this is in the city of Syracuse, but we're just trying to give you the full picture. So visitor parking is now designated right there. They cross the driveway. There's a directory that they can see. There are also 2 pull-offs for drop-off and pickup. And then our visitors, when they're coming with their students, can actually take that ceremonial walk up the hill, up the original entrance to the campus and past the new sign and get up to the square in front of Gruen.
And in that same space, if you've driven here, you know that there are 2 crosswalks side by side. We are eliminating the diagonal crosswalk and the walk that takes people up to the chapel. That has posed a safety issue crossing Salt Springs, so we're consolidating pedestrian circulation and, as Fouad mentioned, taking people up the primary walkway. That takes us through. We are, let me, if I can zoom out here again. It's our layout plan. We're grading everything into that hill space. It fits rather well as we were working with the steering committee at Lemoyne and developing the drop off. We were able to locate it on that hillside. Looking at the landscape plan, we're continuing the palette that we set forth in phase 1, establishing the strong quad shade tree plan, as well as identifying the smaller spaces as you approach Gruen, surrounding that central quad space and making the connection over to the Panache Tower. Trees will continue all the way down that drive. Promote that as that primary access up to the center of campus. We'll plant the island in the middle of the drop-off as well to define that space, and then have plantings at the main entrance as well to further define that area. I'd like to get to the sign here just so you can see that. I know as Fouad mentioned, it's in the city of Syracuse, but this is the paving pattern that we'll have in the quad. We looked at detailing on the facade at Gruen to bring that out into the quad space. It will be all pavers in a pattern that's reflective of the windows on Gruen. We're working with 3 colors that will really stitch that space together and focus on bringing the scale down to the pedestrian level. As I mentioned, all the curbs in that space will be flush. And then this is the new sign that will be going at Salt Springs Road. It is curved. We're bringing the grade up behind it. And then it will be lit from the front and not internally lit, but it will have spots on it. The brick is matching Gruen to tie those 2 together, and again identify that main entrance to the campus. Anything else you wanted to add, Fouad?
No, I think that's good.
Leave it open to the board. I just wanted to make one comment, Fouad. I wish, this is rhetorical. I wish you luck with the fire department, the chief of fire. I'm just curious at how two people could have a different perspective of codes and traffic patterns for fire trucks, but that's just my.
Well, I appreciate it, Peter. I think it just unfortunately was just lost in translation. I've met the new fire chief. Actually, he was on campus for the last a week and a half, doing all of the inspections. And he's a great guy, but it didn't even occur to me that I had to go over everything with him. So I am happy to do that. That's no problem. I'm sure that we'll be fine.
Thank you. I open it up to the board. Thanks for the presentation. It looks like significant improvements. And what are the board's comments?
Well, this is Douglas. I think this is a very sensible solution. It's very nice. And I just had 3 questions. So in terms of overall ADA accessibility now into the quad with the drop off, what is the mechanism for getting folks closer to the buildings? I mean, this is a much further traverse now from Salt Springs. How is that built into the campus plan for accessibility?
Well, it's a very good question, and it's something we've been dealing with now for a year and a half. So it depends on which building. So where the chapel is concerned, where we have mass every day at noon, lot P, which is the P for Panache, which is right next to the chapel, those gates open at noon, and the public can come park to the right of the chapel, and then they can go and take that sidewalk right to the chapel. As far as the library access, our drop-off would get you there, but also the library has another private drive on the west side of the building. So there are 2 ways now to get to the library. As far as Riley, Gruen, and Coyne, their handicapped access is actually from the north side, because we're really only accessible from the one side door of Gruen, and going up the hill for somebody who's handicapped is not really the ideal thing to do. And that will get addressed in the next project we're reviewing on the agenda item, which is why I asked to do this first so that we can do these in consecutive succession. All of our handicap parking spaces are on the north side of Riley and Gruen. And you'll see with the improvement in the pickup and drop off, we get folks right into the accessible entrance, which is the closest to the elevator in the complex. And then they can go to the various floors of those buildings.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Anyone else?
Well, that was only one of my questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You kind of addressed the second one, which was access to the chapel now, because that's also been limited. So, I mean, I've been to the chapel many times, and the way I've been dropped off was at the previous drop off in front of Gruen. And just in terms of traffic and access, have you thought about how this is going to impact the little parking lot there to the east of the chapel, just in terms of traffic? And
well, we've been living with it for the last year and a half.
Well,
and we haven't. It's been fine. We opened the gates for prayer at noon, and though we have spare spaces in there, that lot is not full. And as far as I'm aware, folks that are coming in to pray from outside of our community, direct campus community are using it, and they're coming in and they're going out, and it's also open on the weekends, so it's available.
Okay. And then I guess the last maybe comment is around the drop off. I would assume that there would be some furniture, site furniture that would be part of that, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a nice amenity.
Yep.
Okay, very nice.
I think don't we show a bench? Steve,
We have benches there, Douglas.
Yeah. And that's the campus standard bench, the black metal bench that we have everywhere.
Excellent. Is that it, Doug? Good
Thanks,
questions. Anyone else? Kathy, Joe, Leif?
I'm good.
I think it's a well-executed plan. I like the sensitivity to the lines of the campus, the way the roadwork is pulled through and engages the circular flow up into the quad. I think it's very well thought out.
I
agree.
Sentiments.
Leif, we're accepting donations to help build it.
Yeah. You got all my son's grad school money already.
All right.
You'll get
My
his
granddaughters
approval.
too, both of them.
Thank you. This is so exciting for us. It's just doing this has just been heroic. I hope we can pull it off this year. If not this year, it'll definitely be next year.
Well, this was a concept review, and we'll be awaiting your, I think we're very pleased with what you've done so far and your consultant, and we'll await your conversation and meeting with the fire chief.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Facade, I think as part of that conversation with Chief Green, I think it would probably be a good idea to have just an overlay plan of fire department access, turning radiuses, some of their heavier equipment coming in, ladder trucks, just so you can get an idea before you meet.
Sure.
Yep.
Would you like to be a part of that, Andy, or do you want me to just do it
please.
on my own? Okay, well, I'll set it up.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Okay, Delta Sonic.
Oh, wait a minute. We still have one more project, Peter.
Oh, geez.
We're not done yet.
I thought you had switched them around and you were, okay.
No, we still need to look at the other application.
All right.
So, and I'm sorry to delay Delta Sonic further, but
that's all right. No.
So in this instance, again, we were responding to feedback, and you know, I'm sorry we're looking at this and it seems so big because it's filling up the screen, but really we're looking at a very small alcove between two buildings, and really it is a sort of utility type space. We have a dumpster at the bottom of the plan. We have a chiller that's between four posts sitting in the middle of it. It's where the food gets dropped off for the dolphin den, which is on the left. And that sidewalk serves the back doors to enter the kitchen. And also those are the doors to the mechanical room of Gruen. But nonetheless, it is the accessible entrance. Our president parks to the right of that circle. That's for parking space up at the top right of the circle. We have our main key visitors are coming there. You see the line of handicapped parking spaces in front of Riley facing north. That's where all of our handicapped parking is. It goes down all the way to the right across the facade. And what we've discovered since the Salt Springs entrance has been closed this whole time is that this node has sort of become a pickup and drop off spot. And a lot of people are coming up here for the first time and they don't realize where to go, and they don't realize that this is sort of where they should make their turnaround and go. And sometimes they're continuing to drive and ending up at the Jesuit residence garages up the hill, which is not where we want them to be. And so we wanted to, number one, we wanted to fix the pickup and drop off situation. We wanted to make it more pedestrian friendly by having sidewalks once you're dropped off that you can walk on. And we also wanted to highlight the handicapped entrance by putting in a concrete walk that is at the same level as the asphalt so that it's crystal clear where you're supposed to go. We've also added 2 sets of fencing on either side of the driveway, if you will. It's kind of like a stage set, and what that does is it hides the cars and it hides the services a little bit. This particular fence is more open and decorative. You can see right through it. Obviously, you want that for safety reasons. But we're also fencing in around the chiller between the 4 posts, and that's a more opaque type of fence so that we don't see the equipment. And we're just trying to clean up this area a little bit because it's become more of an entrance for us. And so that, it's a very simple, elegant solution, but I think it will really improve that whole situation. We do have lighting there. I saw one of the comments was asking, there is one light pole that sort of ends up being like right on the curb, and we're moving it into that triangular island. That's the only lighting change we're making. The buildings actually already have wall pack lights on them, so we're not anticipating any change there. Steve, did I miss anything? Sorry, I stole your thunder.
No, that's all right. I won't say anything this time. Peter can keep it moving. That's fine.
That's right. Board? Okay. Thank you. Move this along as soon as you get back.
Yep.
With Andy and the fire chief.
Okay.
Thank you all. Now, Delta Sonic. I have to disclose I'm a frequent user of this site.
Can I share my screen?
Absolutely, James, go right ahead.
Yeah. It'll be easier for me to walk through. Can you see my screen? On one side, you'll see the aerial. On the other side, you see the proposed site plan. So this plan is born out of updating Delta Sonic and actually improving the stacking on site. I'll just walk through the 5 or 6 changes we're proposing to make. I think everyone's familiar with this site. Erie Boulevard's up top. It connects back to the shopping center in the rear. You're familiar with it. So we're going to start. We're going to remove the existing single prep hut that's located here. That's where the cars go to be pre-washed. And we're going to replace it with a dual prep hut. The benefit of that is it will stagger the cars and feed them through and move the line through quicker. The car wash could do about 200 cars an hour. What slows the stack down is actually this pitch point right here. So we've been upgrading all our car washes to add that to increase the speed and reduce the stacking back into the site. We're going to remove one detail bay. The detail bay is located right here where my hand is. We're going to remove it, and we're going to add a 150 square foot expansion for the office and some new bathrooms in that area. We're also going to remove the existing dumpster, which is located here. And we're going to put that dumpster against the building in a new corral. We're going to add green space on either side of where that dumpster was, and we'll provide a striped area because off-peak hours, the garbage truck will come in, pick up the dumpsters, and then leave back through the site. So we leave a little area so they can get through, but we relocate the dumpsters and tuck them in the back. They always get picked up off-peak when we're not open. We're going to be revising, and let me just go to the sign package. Revising the tower element in this area. It currently has a peaked roof. We're going with a rounded roof, and we're raising it from 28 feet high to 32 feet high, which I believe is just a small increase in this area. We are replacing the gas canopy surround with the blue and red on the top, and we're also updating all the stanchions and re-bricking them. They currently don't have brick. I think there's some sort of metal so that they match the building. So they'll all be redone in brick throughout the site. And we're adding one sign. We are consistent with the amount of signage on site, which we're allowed. We're not asking for any variances, but that sign goes in the tower element right here. It doesn't require a variance. That is the extent of the improvements.
Thanks, James. That was quick.
Yep.
I use this frequently. So are you proposing, I've got just 2 questions,
yep.
Possibly 3, on the pre-wash, because that's not really being used because it's a single bay. Are you going to use that as a mechanical pre-wash?
We actually have been upgrading all the sites with new, we call them robots, but they are mechanical pre-wash. So what they do is a car goes in and they stagger the release. It actually, what it does is it constantly feeds the car through. One car is being washed, one car is passing through, next car loads up, the car in the other bay passes through. So it actually will speed the way up. And that's, I do have a picture of that, but I know you're familiar with it.
Well, you have one at West.
Yep. Yes, we do.
It works very well there, and it's going to be a big improvement. 2, the height. I think we figured it out, but why don't you tell us about the height on that tower going up 4 feet? Is that so your sign is more prominent?
You can't see the front of the building from Erie Boulevard. So if I can drop the, let me see if I can drop the little man there.
Thank you.
So this is currently, it's got a little peak. You can see it through the canopy. We're looking to raise that 4 feet. So
Would you
that,
want to get your signage up higher underneath that blue arch at the top so you get some visibility there?
yes, so the sign will now sit right above the gas canopy. That's the intent.
Okay.
The last question I have is there's no signage allowed on the canopy itself by code.
Yep. That's an existing sign. We could work with Andrew on that. So we're not proposing any new signage. We're not, the only new sign is in the building. Every other sign we're not touching.
No, I
Yeah,
know.
the sign we found was approved with the original planning board submission.
Okay.
And the date of that was 2006, Andy?
I think so. Nick had that information, I believe.
I looked at this briefly in terms of your dumpster. What material is that made out of?
I believe that's going to match the building.
Okay. Now, these are significant improvements.
Just going back to the canopy signage, it was 2001 was the approval for that.
Okay. Rest of the board?
Question is, where is the all the pre-wash water? Where is that going?
It is there. It's connected to our drainage system picked up in the car wash. So there's storm drains here, not storm drains, not going to the storm system, but drainage that goes into the remainder of the car wash. It all goes to our pre-treat. We actually recycle almost 60% of our water at this site. So that will be picked up here and actually put into our recycling, and most of it will be reused.
Thank you.
If the new sign is going to be visible from Erie, do we still need the canopy sign?
We would prefer to keep the canopy sign.
Did I hear correctly, though, that the canopy and the columns are all getting reclad?
The canopy is getting a new color. It's going to be blue and red, and all the columns are going to be brick. If you can see them, they're currently some sort of white metal. They're painted. So they're all going to be matched the building with new brick.
I guess I would echo that. I don't know that you need both signs, but I know your desire to keep them, but I'm not so sure you need both.
Well, I guess I don't know why the current signage code wouldn't apply and overrule. That might be a Jamie question.
Well, we're not changing that. And it's currently grandfathered. So as long as we don't make it bigger or change it or move it, it's currently legally non-conforming. So we're not looking to change it.
It's actually, if it's predating the signage codes that currently apply to the town, there is no grandfathering that's allowed. And I'm actually trying to research the exact language of that sign code, but it would be considered prohibited.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to look into that.
Yes.
I believe it's
I'll
legally
send you the
non-
code section.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Just meet with Jamie on that.
I will look at that.
Yep.
James. So I think this is a huge operational improvement. Your customers will be very happy.
James, are you also proposing to do any building facade cleaning?
We'll take a look at it. I don't know. Is there an issue that needs to be addressed?
Well, a lot of facilities like this have a lot of staining and efflorescence, kind of that white chalk on the facade, and it'd be nice if you're doing all this work to give it a good cleaning.
We'll take a look at it.
James, I would just echo that too in terms of the when you go through the interior. You come out and they have some beautiful benches that you could sit on, but
yes,
the condition of the walk and the patio area there is, as Doug alluded to, is very stained and could use some type of a refurbishing.
We'll take a look at that.
Was there going to be discussion about deliveries and some concern about the blocking?
They addressed that in the beginning, Jamie, in terms of that they do the dumpster trash removal at off hours, which they have to do. I mean, there's no way.
Not the dumpster.
Oh,
other deliveries.
oh, the front, the Coca-Cola, I assume that that's the same, because I don't know how a large truck would get in and service, but I'll defer to.
Yeah, we try and schedule those deliveries when we don't have significant people on the site. I mean, you know, there's no way to, I mean, the site needs to be delivered to, and this is, you know, this type of Delta Sonic's a unique use, right? Because it's really 5 or 6 uses on one site that are operating simultaneously. And gas pumps, as you know, when you go to a gas pump, people circle around them in every which direction to get on the right side or an empty pump. So you don't look at it doesn't have a normal traffic flow. But we work to schedule our deliveries when the site is either not open to the public or early in the morning when it's the least busy. So we're going to continue to do that. This results in no increased deliveries.
Forgive me, where are the fuel storage on this site, just for my information?
I believe the tanks are in the front, somewhere in this area.
And the trucks, when they refill, that's where they are. And
they're parked there, yes.
They must be off hours, because as much as it's been there, I've never seen one.
No, they're always you can see the fill areas right here.
Yep.
You see them? So they will come around, they will park, they will fill, and they will go back out.
Are you contemplating any electrical stations?
We are not.
Okay. What's the next step, Jamie?
Well, Peter, there are a couple other items that I wanted to touch on really quick.
Okay.
The first is that when we looked up the parcel information, it appeared that there's 2 different tax IDs that are associated with this property. I know Nick was looking into this to see if it had actually been consolidated and then filed properly with the county. So I just wanted to let you know that that had been flagged as an issue, and the filing will need to be confirmed if that hadn't already been done.
If it hasn't been done, Stephanie, we can finish that. That would predate my time here.
Okay.
But I'll also have our title guy take a look at it.
Okay. And we also noted during our site visit that there were a lot of miscellaneous items being stored in the back parking lot where the queuing for the detail shop is. And there's everything from stacks of garbage to pallets and various containers. And I wanted to ensure that the size of the dumpster enclosure was being sized to accommodate all of those loose items. As I'm sure you're familiar, we do require a letter from the business, just kind of walking through the enclosure needs and the type of uses. So I'd like for those items to be included.
I will take a look at that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So I guess Stephanie will send the comments, and it did go for a SACPA. So when it comes back, we'll talk about action.
Yep. I think these are well thought out, very diligent and operationally sound. Thank you very much, James.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any comments on anything? I know Andy had mentioned something relative. You want to speak, Andy?
Regarding this parcel?
No, you brought something up that.
Yeah, so going back, James and I had a discussion this afternoon regarding the ladders on the other buildings, the exterior ladders for the rooftop equipment. We looked into it. It is a code requirement that they have to have an access ladder, either inside or outside, for any kind of a height over 16 feet, and it cannot be a portable ladder. We've reviewed this a couple of times. I think James had indicated that they've taken off the cage that was required for safety in OSHA and reconfigured their ladder system to still be compliant with OSHA requirements in New York State Code. you know, it's whether if it's an afterthought or not, I'm not really sure how that all transpired, but my feeling is that it is a code requirement. It's very I wouldn't say it's very prominent on this building. I think it's of interest to the board for this parcel because it's all accessible on all sides for the most part. I don't think it looks bad. That's my own opinion. I think the board needs to, you know, if they want to move forward with something like this and making this a policy that they be interior to the structures, I think this application came before that. And I really think that this board, it isn't, I think they've done a pretty decent job at hiding this. It doesn't really show up. In fact, for the most part, we didn't even know it was there until they brought it to our attention, actually. So my feeling is, and actually James had showed me that we had also approved this on the Starbucks building on the outside as well, and something that I was not aware of.
Let me go back, Andy. I guess correct me when we talked about this at a work session that this was under we could have them install it inside, or we could approve it outside, but it wasn't on the plans originally. Am I correct?
I think
after
this building, I believe, was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the 10K building. It wasn't.
It was the 10K building. It wasn't. It was shown on this building.
Yeah.
It was it's so that one is approved. It is literally, I keep showing it, but it is literally the 10K building that we're asking for it on. And on the 10K building, I can't put it inside because I am fully leased out, and it was not. You know, we have worked in this town a long time, and it was not to pull a fast one. There is no other town I need to show a ladder to. So my construction people, because it's a code issue, they have to put them up, and they put it up. It was not intentional. It was not to avoid anything. It showed up in the other elevation. I don't know why our architect put it on there, but literally this building is fully leased, and I cannot put a ladder inside this building. So I have done the best I can to minimize that. I could paint it to match the color of the wall, which would be similar to what I believe the board approved for Starbucks. If you see there, that's the Starbucks ladder that is visible from the rear of the building. That building is also visible, like ours, on all four sides.
Yeah. Did you say that the cage was being removed?
The cage has been removed. We removed the cage. We're going to do a system where you lock in and climb. So I got rid of the cage. Was much more apparent. So the cage is now gone.
That was my major issue. I would like to see it painted, but I'll defer to some of the other board members if they have a desire one way or the other.
So we're talking about the 10K, correct?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. I'd like a chance to go see it now that the cage is gone, because I do think the cage was pretty obnoxious.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've taken the cage off yet. I just had the plan changed. I could, because we didn't want to fool with it. If we got to take it all down, I needed an approval. So it's probably still the way it is. I just removed the cage on the approval. If we get an approval, I could go have it taken down. If I got to take the whole ladder down, I don't want to do it twice. So this is the whole cage would be off. If you look at it, there would be no cage. It would just be a regular stand-up ladder.
And it can be painted out with a building.
It could be painted. We got that idea from the Starbucks because it looks like, I don't know if the board required that or they just did it on their own, but they seem to have matched as close as they could the color of the buildings.
I'll confess, I don't remember. I was here for that. I don't remember that on the building, and I don't remember discussing it, but
I don't think they show them, to be honest with you, it's kind of afterthought.
When these are brought up, we do request that they are painted to match the building exterior, but they have to be located at the back of the house.
You know, that's tough to do in this.
Oh, technically, I know this building's visible on all four sides. This is the back of the building. I mean, functionally the back of the building. So we don't really have anywhere else to put it.
Is there a tree really planted right there?
Let me see if I could get to the aerial. Sometimes it lets me drop in.
Careful, James. You might have to put a tree in.
I would put a tree in. I'm not worried about a tree. Let's see. I think I accidentally closed out Google. Give me 1 second.
Is there a security barrier on the first couple of rungs to keep people off the roof?
I don't believe so. They ask our construction guys. So let's see if I can drop the little man in.
Well, Doug, don't they make a chase that goes around it that locks up and you could do it?
Well, they make like a flat panel on a hinge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
I mean,
You
that's
could
kind of
match
what
that.
I was kind of expecting that.
I mean, we're going to comply with what current codes are. So whatever. So this is the back of the building.
The flat panel may be more desirable because it's going to make it blend into the wall more.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
And it's a security thing, a security issue for people climbing it after hours or something.
James, are you able to dimension the offset of the roof and the building? Because there's some concern about the narrow sidewalk and having this obstruct the pathway to the doors. Any emergency needs?
I can certainly take a look at the plan. That you mean the ladder is going to obstruct the? I think there's some. I don't think
Well, if it's already there, we can probably take a look.
It is just frustrating not to have it. And I know that you've got a full house with tenants, but I think we could be persuaded with this design and color scheme and with the safety that was mentioned by Joe. I sure wouldn't like to see this happen again.
And that's understood. And as I told you, it's typically not something that is an issue.
No, when I saw the cage, I mean, I just took, because it's very conspicuous. And you've done such a great job on those buildings.
Well, there's probably no way to do a tree there. If in fact, sidewalk and retaining wall. So that's
but if you can paint it out with the color of the building, it could be inconspicuous as possible.
Yes, we can certainly remove the cage, paint it to match the building. It'll look very similar to the Starbucks one.
Yeah, you've got a lot of roof equipment up there too.
We have a lot of roof equipment.
Which you really can't see.
No, it's hid by the parapet of the wall. You can't really see any of that equipment.
Maybe it's a stupid question, but over there by the dumpster and the dumpster storage, is there a facade? That's already kind of a utility section of the building. I'm just wondering if there's a place to.
Let me see if I can. We could take a look at that. That's where we put it on the other building by the dumpster. If I can drop the little man.
It's already kind of the back of the house utility space anyway, so.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's kind of an area too that where the traffic does seem to get a little tight there and congested. You're putting more of your attention on the road than on the building, so that's not a bad place to hide it.
Yeah.
I mean, we might be able to, if I take a look. You got the dumpster enclosure. This seems to be a bump out, but maybe there's some way to fit it. This seems to be an overhang on the building.
I feel like that if any place in the building that it would seem appropriate to put it, that would be it in my mind.
Yep. Let me see if we could relocate it there.
You can do that. I would agree with Doug. If you could do that, and we can just do this at a work session.
Yeah, let me see if we could. I mean, I agree that as far as the building goes, that's all four sides. That's the side the ladder probably would disappear on because you got the dumpster enclosures here. You really don't have any visibility, and people are coming at it sideways. No one comes at that building head on from this direction.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is from the adjoining property. I'm looking onto it, but when you're on the roadway, you don't even see it. So let me see if we can relocate the ladder to this side.
Thank you.
All right.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Andy, for bringing this up.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Have a good night.
too.
Anything else?
Peter, I do have an update for the board on the ONX1 site.
Yes.
So after our work session on Tuesday, we received an email from the applicant that they would like to move forward with the proposed building on the northwestern corner of the site. I'm not sure if everyone recalls that location. There was currently an empty parking spot, or parking lot rather. So I believe they will be submitting some plans for us to review. And I'd also like to schedule a site inspection, or sorry, a site visit with the board, the applicant. Yep. So I'll send around an email to everybody.
We'll get as many people as we can there.
Yeah, that would be good, because my head was spinning after that presentation.
Oh, I gotta tell you, you should be out there and looking at the site in the snow. It's impossible, especially because you don't know what their plans are. I'm not so sure I know what their plans are after. I don't need any more pictures. Thank you all. A motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I got hands. Okay, I like that. I learned though there's little hands what they're for.
Yeah, if we're adjourned, if I can throw something out really quick, just, I don't know if any of you guys had looked at the parallel parking plan from.
Well, we haven't voted yet, have we?
Let's vote first.
Okay,
I didn't hear the second. Sorry. Who was, I heard Kathy.
I made the motion.
I'll second.
Yeah, second.
Oh, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Yeah, Kevin, Joe, everybody. Okay, great. The parallel parking, we're talking about Kravick Drive. Andy, I spoke, I don't know if I talked to you, I did speak to Stephanie about it, and you know, I think that we need to see the option as to what are the advantages to parallel parking vis-a-vis what are the advantage or disadvantages to the diagonal parking. Have the applicant put that in, and they seem to be wedded to the diagonal, but it still kind of confuses me with almost a U-turn, and we need to decide what is in the best interest of the design and the site plan going forward. So there's some puts and takes on each of those. Did I reflect that properly, Stephanie?
That's right.
So
yeah.
If we could get those options with have the applicant do that and not just say geez, parallel versus diagonal versus perpendicular. I just need to know what the advantages and disadvantages are to all three of those.
Yeah, agreed. I think we've looked at all of them kind of individually, but not as a whole group. I think the perpendicular was kind of a safety issue, and it really kind of pushed right out into the street. The diagonal really kind of, these were all, after they did these drawings, we really kind of thought, wow, that looks great. But then we also came up with a whole bunch of different problems added with that. The diagonal made it really a one-way street. And that wasn't really desirable. And then I think somebody mentioned the parallel parking with potentially even some on the other side of the road being placed in reserve. And then I really started thinking that that's going to be kind of problematic for Rocky and the plows to plow down through there, especially if there's cars there. And because you're going to be pushing the snow right up against the doors. And they said that they can post that because most of that parking would probably be for the businesses anyhow, and the residents can park on the interior, that they would be willing to post that, no parking overnight during the winter months. So I did send this down to Rocky just to get kind of very off the cuff, pros and cons, and I haven't heard back from them yet, but
okay.
I think we have 3 plans out there, albeit very rough. But my own personal feeling is I think that at least the parallel parking with potentially the other parallel parking placed in reserve so far looks to be the most beneficial to both.
Does that mean it's a private road, Andy?
No,
Is
it's a town road.
So
it'd be keeping it a town road.
How could you put parallel parking on a town road in reserve? Wouldn't that just be street parking?
It would be street parking, yeah.
It would not be a reserve.
But the other part to this too is we were going through this is if we abandon the road, which initially sounded like a great idea, if we abandon the road, we really kind of shoot ourselves in the foot with the whole MEV2 philosophy of being streetscape and being on a town road. Yeah. So
right.
That goes away. So, every time we thought we were going down, no pun intended, a road here that was going to sound good, it turned around to be not so good. So I do think that this kind of checks most of the boxes, and it's still a safety.
Yeah.
A good safety.
If the town, if Rocky comes back and says it's okay, is the rest of the board amenable to a parallel parking? I am personally. Doug, I got a nod from you.
Just curious.
Parallel parking it just feels more like
it looks,
street setting.
Yeah, exactly.
So
okay.
Is there anywhere else in town where we parallel park for shopping? I wonder if that's where the hesitation's coming from.
I think we do have some, if I'm not mistaken, out in Jamesville in the hamlet there. Has that changed to parallel, or is that still perpendicular?
I think there's a combination of both out there.
I think so.
But
maybe that's what the hesitation was. It doesn't seem like it's a particular popular option within the town, right? It's not like it's
I just think
that's
pull out into the street.
In the hamlet, that was a much busier road. This is really, for all intents and purposes, it's only going to serve their uses, especially past McDonald's. It's only really predominantly for their use. So the traffic volume is going to be a lot less.
I think it just aesthetically looks better, and you also have some green space that they'd have to give up using the diagonal.
Right.
So is everybody amenable to the parallel and just moving this along?
Well, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in
we actually get some road improvements too at their cost, so that's pretty good too.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Done. Motion to adjourn. We already did, so I'll call this one. Have a great evening, a great weekend, everybody.
Sounds good. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.